Well, hi folks. Welcome to today's edition of our videocast, My Life with Robert Burns. We're pleased you could join us. Those of you who have been following our series will already know that my name's Douglas Mackenzie, and I'm pleased to be hosting this videocast with my newcomer at Burns Club friend and colleague, Jim Thompson. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Douglas. Hi, everybody.
Let me tell you about today's session. Via the clever technology provided by Zoom, we've been talking to our friends from around the Burns world. And we thought we would share our blethers with you via social media and YouTube. For today's session, we're delighted to introduce a crony who's a long-standing member of Newcomer at Burns Club and a recent star of Bobby Jess's poetry channel. Cronies everywhere. To tell us about his life with Robert Burns, please welcome Billy Hastie.
Thank you, Douglas. It's a pleasure to join my friends and companions with Newcomer Burns Club and Burns in general, yes.
Okay, Billy, nice to see you. For those that don't already know you, how about telling us a wee bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in Newcomer, where I've lived most of my life. There was a wee while I was born in Burnside in my granny's front room, and on my birth certificate it comes along father's occupation in war service. I never got signing it. My father was away at sea during the war, so I'm a wartime baby, and when he came home, I went to Glasgow at first, where he left the Merchant Navy and went into the shipyards for a short time. I kind of remember that. And then we finished up at Drumlanrig on the estate there, and I was christened there at Durrisdeer, and then we come back to Newcomnock for me to go to the school. That's so my father said that. Personally, I think he was poaching that many pheasants and flogging them on the side that he'd be thinking they was going to get caught and he'd better fled. But anyway, we were there, and I went to school at Newcomer, and I was there for 10 years. I done the full complement. I was a junior secondary then, and done all right at the school. I was fine. I've always been a kind of, I was born, it's duty first, so I didn't plug the skill or anything like that. I went and done my duty, and done no bad. Enjoyed it, and I was about 11-year-old or so when my father started for himself as a plumber, and I was the eldest in the family, the eldest of 5 boys, so my career was already planned out for me. He couldn't get me left. In fact, I started my time the year after he started. I started my time as a 12-year-old, simple as that. And I've worked all my life as a plumber and joined in the community. I was always involved in the I was involved at school and things. I was a school captain. And elected there by my peers, so that was it was quite a thing. That 600 pupils there at that time.
So plumbing was your life from school days on?
Aye, basically. But I enjoyed my work. I like working. I still like working. I like and always enjoyed hard physical work as well. And while I obviously been in business for yourself, a lot of book work and writing and what have you, that I enjoyed that as well, and it was quite a broad selection, and my interests were also as well. Always a keen interest in nature, birds in particular, and I was a shooter. Shot and fished and kept spaniels and ferrets and with poultry at home, and I reared pheasants and had a great interest in. I remember BASC, British Association for Shooting and Conservation, and been about that kind of world, which I enjoy as well. Still enjoy.
But you to travel a distance to find somebody to live the rest of your life with.
I went to, I was nearly 17. I was 2 months off my 17th birthday, and I went with 3 friends. We went to Blackpool, which was a great adventure in those days. And here I met a lassie. She was just a month after her 15th birthday. And it was your Susan. And I went out with Susan at Nixon in Blackpool, and we've been together ever since. That was us, stuck. And
So love at first sight?
It must have been for her. Yes, it must have been a love match, because I remember no phones, no mobile phones, no motorways. It was a long, long road to go to Blackpool. And she come from Manchester, pure bred Anglo-Saxon, place called Ashton-under-Lyne, just it's within the Greater Manchester conurbation now.
So we better give you the chance to introduce your family a wee bit.
Well, we got married. I was 22 and Susan would be 20. And we were married, and a couple of years, and she came up to live in New Cumnock. She was an only yinty. Quite a big thing for her to leave home and come up. Thinking back at that age, it was. And 2 years later, we got Neil, my eldest son, and then we had Stephen 3.5 years after that. In between the boys, we lost a wee lassie, which was Sarah, and she'd have been 50 this year.
My goodness.
And there's no a day goes by that, oh Christ, I'm going to be greeting. I don't think about it.
I understand that.
But
you've also got a squad of grandwains that you're proud of as well.
Yes, we have the boys grew up in New Cumnock and went to school there, and then went to Cumnock, and they both found themselves a woman and get married, and they're giving us 4 grandchildren, 2 girls and 2 boys. So I'm blessed, and everything's all right with them, and they're happy and settled, and that makes me feel good.
Very good.
And they've done well. They both worked and served their time with me, but then they're away doing other things. That was the best thing for them to do.
Good for them. Well, we'll move away from talking about you and maybe get you talking a wee bit about Burns. So I'll pass over to Jim, who'll maybe start talking to you about that side of our conversation.
Well, Billy,
Yes, Jim.
what first drew you into Burns?
Well, there was no family connections or anything like that, Jim. The only thing that I had for Burns at school would be the qualifying class. Well, you boys are all enough to have a qualifying class. That my teacher there was Mrs. Gilbert, and she had been, she came to New Cumnock as Miss Mackenzie, a Highlander.
That's a good name.
Straight. Oh, aye. That's right. And she taught my mum. She taught my mother in New Cumnock. But by the time she was teaching me, she was Mrs. Gilbert. And she had married Geordie Gilbert. And Geordie Gilbert's a past president of New Cumnock Burns Club. And I always remember she taught us the first verse of Tam O'Shanter, because, and thinking back, I think it was maybe a history lesson, because but basically that was the only connection that with Burns at school, which I still remember, obviously. But we did get, in secondary, we got a singing teacher, or a music teacher rather, Miss Sumner, and she sang in the radio and things at times. And we did sing a rosebud by my early walk, I do the thorn and closed box, so gently bent your thorny stalk all on a dew morning. I didn't connect it with Burns, and we didn't sing no, I could sing anyway, but we tried to disrupt her because we could bully her. We couldn't bully Mrs. Gilbert, but we could bully Miss Sumner a wee bit. But basically, with Burns, that's all I came to. Left school, went to my work, and as I'd be my late teens, 20-ish, just before I got married, Jim Shanklin, Plummer's Jim Bob's brother, past president of a new company, that were working together at the Arthur Memorial Kirk. It had been shut for a while, or no working as it should, and it was opening up. And we were doing voluntary work, and funnily enough, it was the Bob Turnbull, Hugh Turnbull and Sons, and Jim Shanklin, Mitchell Shanklin Sons, and Willie Hastie, Hugh Hastie and Sons. We were the three guys that worked very well together, and going well, and the Shanklins and the Turnbulls had obviously a great connection with the Burns Club. And Jim says, "You know, coming along to the supper, Hastie?" So I did. And he got me along there, and within a year or so, I was asked to speak, in fact, because I was a Freemason and practicing Freemason. And they knew I could speak a wee bit, so they had me speaking as a smoker. And it went from there. Within a couple of years, I was on the committee. And
given you've been at a ween of Burns suppers, you'll have many a few highlights in Burns suppers, have you know?
Oh, I took the interest, and there always, Jim, there's a lot of highlights here, and a lot of tales, and I listened intently and paid attention. I did, and I've always remembered the first job I got in committee, for by sitting at the door. They didn't have tickets or anything like that in these days. It was me that sorted all that out later on. But one of the jobs I got was sitting at the door at the Crown, and everybody had said they were coming, and so they just turned up and they paid at the door, and I had to sit and take their name and address where they were. And when you're doing that 200 times, almost 150 to 200 times, and if they're all arriving at Yince, it was quite a job. And it was a guy over in Alec McKechnie that was sitting there as the young idiots getting told to do this.
I'm trying to imagine you and Alec as young, but I'm getting there.
Oh, we were, and then first, you sit at the bar, Millie, and just see if there anybody needs kind of quitting and doing that or whatever. And there was always a couple got through, and they were splendid guys, first class guys, and they're making a noise. So I had to go and gentle them out into the foyer and go away to the kitchen, and couldn't give us a cup of coffee. I don't want that coffee. And I'll not mention any names, but they were the kind of guys, they had hollow legs. They just shook their head and stood up and walked back in after a couple of breaths of fresh air, walked back in and sat down and started again. But we're sitting there, you got to ken everybody that was coming, and everybody got to ken you. And as time went on, and I eventually became secretary, it was easy. And everybody thought that they were my special friend, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And it was good, yes. And there was a lot of wee anecdotes that would come away with it, trying to get some of them out into motors. And then there was one time at a supper, and the Crown Hotel had got burnt down. I was secretary by this time, and the Crown Hotel had got burnt down 3 weeks before the supper, and all the tickets were all sold. What do we do about this? So Willie Nairn was president, so I went and said, what are we going to do, Willie? And we need the supper. So we went and quickly arranged town hall and caterers and all the things you have to do. We had a good supper. And a different time, of course, and caretaker of the town hall, I'm not hanging on here to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll just leave you the key. Just lock up when you're by. Aye, fine. So it was a hard, frosty night. So I was going out and had all this money and all the rest of my books. I wasn't happy about having to walk up the steam with all this loot. But we took it and locked the door. And I don't know what made me say, Ken, I better go back in there. And Jim Brown was with me. When the parents looked up and I says, hey Brown, I better go back in and just check and make sure everything's done. So I checked everything around and I went into the gents' toilet, and here's one of our members lying in his back, flat out, a goner. So we no mention of the names, we put Freddie outside and they stood him up against the wall and locked up, and then they walked him home. Damn near carried him home, but that was one of the things we could have locked him in. It would have been near the morning. And the damn thing is, it would have been all right because the bar was still stopped. He could have access to the bar. It would have been a grand job at place.
I was just, Billy, last, as you're probably aware, you come at Bunce Club and these kind of evenings on Zoom, and every Friday we have set sort of things. And last Friday, one of the subjects was Burns at his most descriptive. And I picked a poem that I'm always asking you to recite, and you've obliged me a few times, and that's the Libel Summons. I think that's one of Burns's most wonderful works. And you must have been reciting that since before Burns was born, I think.
I find it hard in today, Jim, actually. I enjoyed the Libel Summons. But what I do find is you could quote him. He's there for everything. It doesn't matter what tid you're in, your mood. It doesn't matter your mood. There's something there to suit everything. And the Libel Summons, it's almost a history lesson, really. You're looking into the Coronation Street at Mauchline at the time, and it's quite wonderful. It explains so much what ordinary folk were doing. It wasn't the wealthy or the rich or the high academics. It's just ordinary folk, and I suppose in the whole, that's what Burns says about everything. About all his, you can quote him constantly, even as I say there. When we lost our wee lassie, and I nearly lost Susan as well at the time, and ken the bonny wee thing, canny wee thing, bonny wee thing, wert thou mine. Wistfully I look and languish in that bonny face of thine. My heart it stoons with anguish, lest thy wee thing be na mine. Now that, it's out of context in the few lines you wrote there for Miss Davis, but it hurts me just to say that it gave me solace at the time. So and then there's other things where it can pick you up, but if it doesn't matter, as I say, it doesn't matter what kind of mood you're in, whether you're vacant or in pensive mood, as words were said, or whatever. It's there. There's plenty of quotes, and there's always plenty that it's anybody that likes to think they're above their station to put their feet back in the ground. I like that as well. And the fact that to step aside is human, as he said in your libel summons there, that all the boys are stepped aside, but it certainly makes it, push it into a human level, and that's wonderful. It's his writing that's the attraction. What he wrote, that's his big attraction for me. It's no the, and if you put it into the times he lived and all his writing, and I'm including his letters as well, because I read his letters as well, and it's fascinating. It was a fascinating time he was living, Burns, and when you think that during his short lifetime, if Burns was my age, he'd been 40 years dead. If he was my age, they knew that in his short lifetime, I mean, the American Revolution, the American War of Independence was there, and the French Revolution. These things happened in his lifetime, and you think, oh well, that would be a million miles away from Burns. It wasn't. It was 6 weeks across the Atlantic and 3 days from London to Edinburgh, and you get the news of what was happening. It wasn't all that far away, and Paris and London were the different, and these were world-changing events that's affecting us still today. And he wrote about both. So he was, as I say, I found it very interesting studying his life as well as his work. Whether I would have liked him.
You've covered a whole area of Burns, a whole range. I'll not use the word area, I'll use the word range of Burns there in a few sentences, which is tremendous. It just shows the amount of knowledge you've got. Is there a favourite poem that you've got, or a favourite song?
I can't say there's a favourite poem, because there's so many that I like. I kind of recite Parnassus Hill a lot. It's short and it's sweet. And Susan likes that, funnily enough, Parnassus Hill. And Corson Cohen was there, and my grandfather, Hastie, used to live out in a wee cottage just at the foot of Corson Cohen, and travelled the 3 miles into the village every day to his work. And back out, he worked for Hunter. And there's 3 acres and a coo out there. And Grandpa was very Victorian kind of guy. And I can't remember this, but I believe my father was home and leave on my first birthday, and had been out to visit my grandfather. And my father put me in his shooters and carried me to the top of Corson Cohen, which is Parnassus Hill, which I've been there for 70 odd years, and I've looked at this Parnassus Hill, and I can visualize. And the short poem you're saying about Burns, Ken.
Before you move on, given that Susan likes it so much, it'd be a shame no for you to give us a wee recitation.
Or were I on Parnassus Hill, or had of Helicon my fill, that I might catch poetic quill, and sing how much I know I love thee. The myth would be my muse as well. My muse would be thy bonny cell, and course and cone, and flower and spell, and write how much I love thee. O come, sweet muse, inspire my lay, all the lee lang summer day. I canna sing, I canna say how much, how dear I love thee. I see thee dancing on the green, thy waist say jimp, thy limbs say clean, thy tempting lips, thy roguish een, by heaven and earth, I love thee. By day, by night, I feel that hame, the thoughts of thee my breast inflame. I am muse, sing thy name. I only live to love thee. And though I were doomed to wander on, beyond the sea, beyond the sun, till my last weary sand was run, till then, and then, I'd love thee. Splendid stuff. And you wrote that for
Well done. I can see
his
what
money.
Susan, Susan was attracted to.
Aye. And I can stand and tap a Parnassus Hill and tap a course and cone, and I can see him. That's the road he would come up in the back road. It wouldn't be the road that's there today. And all of a sudden, Kyle Ayrshire would just open up in front of him, and he could see from there right to the sea. 14 miles the Crofleys, 20 miles, 25 miles if you're going with a motor. And it would, down to the left would be Bunbane, and the Doon, and up to the right they would see Blacksadane, and that had been gone to the sea. And there was Kyle before him. There was a lad was born on Kyle, and there it was. And he'd been fired because his bonny Jean was in Morton waiting him. He wouldn't have been wanting to stop when you come up, but he would have to, because it'd be a puff coming up the road for Elliston. Aye, the boy, aye, was good. Aye, I know his stuff. When he writes, for a summer Sunday morn when nature's face was fair, I step it forth to view the corn and snuff the colour here. The rising sun o'er Gossan Mere, the glorious licht was glinting. The hares, they hirpled in the stars. The lavrocks were chanting flew sweet that day. God, there's a picture, and you can see the farmer stepping outside and a good summer Sunday morning and looking at his corn yellow in there and having a wee rub at the leaves in his horn, and the whole affair was on, and the lasses come. Ken, the picture's painted just in half a dozen lines there. You can see the whole world.
And he shows off a wee bit what he's writing, and particularly if you think of Parnassus Hill, he's showing off his classical education there. But Billy, you've been a member of the Burns Club for a long, long time, and the club has benefited from your membership and have also honoured you. Could you give us a few words about your time in Newcombe and what you've achieved there?
Well, hi, Jim. You're right. I was just a young man getting into the Newcombe at Burns Club, and almost just in my 20s when I would go into committee, and I'd done my duty there. Always duty before pleasure with me, all my life. Doesn't matter what I was doing or what I was involved in. Always doing my duty and work first and that kind of thing. And I never liked the front row. I'm not a front row guy. I'm a second row, but I like to think I can make things happen. And when I missed one Burns supper, and it was the Burns, I was no wheel. And that was the year I was made president, Newcombe at Burns Club. And it was also the year that Willie Pearson took no wheel, and and left us. So I was actually finished up. Willie had been secretary for 25 years or something. And I took on as president, but I was doing the secretary's job as well for the first year. And then when Willie died, they made me secretary as well, and I done 14 years as secretary. I served 13 different presidents. And when I took on, I like to think I gave the club, I looked at the club, but I gave the club as much as I go to it. I go to it with the fellowship and the friendship and getting to ken folk and the keen interest in Burns and all the rest of it. But I took on as secretary, and it was a bit kind of haphazard and a very kind of parochial. While there was chasing out a couple of hundred folk attending the supper, it was a bit parochial and very kind of insular. It didn't go to the tune, it wasn't involved in anything. And they held the supper, they held a St Andrew's night, and had the smoker in the spring of the year in March. And that was it. But no regular committee meetings. You get Pearson's post. Pearson, Wee Willie was the headmaster at Cairnhill's Hill, and we called it Pearson's post. I get the Wains to take out an invitation to go to a committee meeting, and you get this thing delivered through your door, and you went to the committee meeting. You'd only the 3 committee meetings a year, just before the supper and the St Andrew's night and the smoker. And when the invitations went out for the Burns supper, they went out the same way. And you just had to return this tear-off slip and said you were going, and that was it. And the committee members said the money folk was going to the St Andrew's night, very haphazard in a way. But as I say, it was pretty successful enough, but it was very parochial. So what? Obviously, I regularised it and made tickets and made sure everybody was getting a proper invitation and were delivered. If what wasn't delivered behind was posted out, and they returned and both their tickets. And as time went on, I started up the poetry night, and I started the Halloween night. I started the trip, and I started I started a wee bit involvement with the Ayrshire Association and also the Federation, and I took some of the boys up to Glasgow to the Burns conference and things like that. And it was a lot of work, and it was a big change for a lot of them. But I think it's what. So I feel, without being the club, I've given the club as much as I took out it. I put a lot into it, because as secretary, that 14 year I done, gave me afforded me the opportunity to get. In fact, I was accused in 1 or 2 occasions. We're sitting here in a committee meeting, and I regularised that as well. And a regular committee meetings have gone to yet. It was me that got that organised, and I get accused occasionally of getting we sit here and make decisions hasty. Now you go out and just please yourself. But it worked.
and the club's gone on from strength to strength ever since, Billy. And I mean, you mentioned
yes, without a doubt. And
you mentioned the trips there.
It absolutely thrills me to bits that it's still going on, and that there's great boys coming on that's keeping it going, and keep that wee bit. But I'm not talking about social class, but keep that wee bit class. Keep it the way. It's fantastic.
So you were involved in instigating the trips, which have gone on for many, many years now, Billy. Have you got a favourite place that the trip went to?
Well, I can't, that's difficult again, Douglas, because I'm the type of guy that if I'm going on here, there's sometimes, well, I'm no fussy about going there, but once a day go out, I enjoy it. I enjoy everything. I've enjoyed them all, and the fact that the boys in the trip, it didn't matter where you stepped off the busway or where. You're like brother, Ken. It was so easy, so close, and you could say and do things that without the drink, without they're all well behaved and no nonsense, but having a good laugh and a good time, fun as it should be. Just like when I was in the Cubs and the Scouts and things like that. I was involved in everything in the. If there's a dog fight in the town, I would have to be there to referee it. And I was involved in everything that was kind of happening. And well, that's with my skill captain's days, and when I be the big chief, Ken, or the wee chief. I never was big in my life, but you know, I enjoyed. I can't say that there was in that I didn't enjoy it, and because I think of the first wee trip to Dumfries, 10 years, Ken. I mean, it was a bother getting 10 together to go, and nothing arranged, and the thing fair it evolved to right to 96 when it was stayed away in 96. That was the first one, staying away, and the boys were, it was splendid, absolutely splendid, and I can't say there was a favourite, and good friends, and I finished up. I was in the Garment State Brigade up at the back of the bus, as all fogies, which we didn't mind at all,
But you're young at heart, Billy. That's the main thing.
I always enjoy the company of Douglas Mackenzie and Jim Thompson and the rest of the Burns, the whole Burns fraternity, really. I enjoy, because I've always enjoyed good, intelligent conversation anyway. And as long as our suppers, we don't get too smutty and swearies and turn it into a swearing competition, where I've been involved in other clubs where that's happened, and it hasn't pleased me. That it can detract, and we haven't had that. You've 200, roughly 200 boys sitting doing a burn supper in Newcombe, and occasionally, and what gave me a big kick at the likes of Newcombe, when a grandfather walks in with his son and his grandson, and they're coming in there to sit down at Newcombe supper, and maybe the son's left Newcombe many years ago, and the grandson with no connection whatever to Newcombe, other than his grandfather and his granny stayed there. A great thrill and a great kick out of that. And your family's going into it, and my family's in it now, and I'm looking forward to my grandson's coming to it. I've got my granddaughter's involved in down here at Sanker, in the Burns movements and winning competition. It thrills me to bits to hear her reciting the rights of women and Lament Mary Queen of Scots. Wonderful. She shouldn't have been blown about that, but she's fantastic at it. And for by that, she's a good singer.
Brilliant.
terrific.
Right.
No,
Thanks very much, Billy, but unfortunately we're running out of time. I think we could possibly get you back at a later time and get another wee half-hour podcast with you, because you've got so many stories to tell. Can we just finish off by saying that obviously you've started a whole dynasty of Hastie Burnsians, and it's great to hear, especially your granddaughter Fisanka doing so well in the competitions and such like. But I was interested in you talking about starting off with Shankland's the plumbers and working with the Shankland family, who themselves had a bit of a dynasty of Burnsians. And it's great to see that the junior vice president and you coming to Burns Club with another Shankland coming along and continuing the tradition. So thank you very much for your time, Billy. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, Billy.
And my pleasure, boys. See you soon. Keep
Thanks
well.
very much.
Cheers.